And welcome. And welcome to our podcast. This is The Grill, What's Cooking, and we're going to be starting up in a few minutes. So if you're online and you're watching this through YouTube, give us a shout out in the chat and say hi if you have any questions. I also want to tell you to hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when we're dropping new videos. Um, but uh, but we'll be starting pretty soon. Okay, took a phone call there for a few minutes. And we're going to be starting shortly, in about 4 minutes. So stay tuned. Phone call there for a few minutes. Stay tuned. And like I said, hit the subscription button, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell if you like what we're doing. Today's going to be a pretty good show. We have a couple things to discuss. We have the governor of New York kind of going crazy with some things. And we have an Atlantic article that says that Trump was calling the military personnel losers and things that had died. But we have some evidence to the contrary. And we have named sources. So you can put that all together and see what you make of it. But we'll be starting in a few moments. So stay tuned. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Hit the notification bell so you know when we drop a new podcast. We do one every week. We start recording because it's an audio podcast. But we do run this live on YouTube. And we appreciate you being here. And if you like what we have to say, even if you don't, you can certainly let us know in the chat, or you can email us at grillonline@citizenjournalistnetwork.com. That's grillonline@citizenjournalistnetwork.com. Please email us, contact us. We'd love to hear your feedback, good and bad. It's just me today. Nicole's on hiatus, and we'll get going shortly, so just stay tuned.
Is doing absolutely nothing. Is
And welcome to the What's Cooking podcast on the Grill online radio at Live at 365. Journalist Charles W. Kim coming to you from the Sunshine State of Florida in Orlando on this beautiful Wednesday. My co-host, Nicole M. Wells, fellow journalist. She's on hiatus for a bit. Got some personal vacation time coming to her. And we hope she's having a good time. So today it's just me, gang. You just get me in all my glory and ranting and whatnot. She's not here to stop me, so you'll just have to deal with it. So, welcome. We have a lot to go through today on the grill, on our What's Cooking podcast. We have an Atlantic article that came out that basically says that President Trump called fallen military veterans in France losers and suckers. Now, The Atlantic, in this article written by Jeffrey Goldberg, and let's pull this up so you can see it, came out. Now, as you know, President Trump has made veterans and things a kind of a cornerstone of his presidency and also of his campaign. He did, promote legislation to start the Veterans Choice Act. So vets, instead of going through the federal system of the VA, could, if they were ill, they could find a doctor, if they had one right around the corner, so they could be seen fast and taken care of, and they'd send the bill to the government instead of them having to go to the VA. He did that. He has also increased military spending in 2017 to rebuild our military. And so basically what happened was Jeffrey Goldberg published a story on September 3rd that took place a couple years ago in 2018. It's interesting, isn't it, how these stories come out right after Labor Day in an election year, 2 years later, with unnamed sources. Unnamed sources. He doesn't have one source in the story that he names. But this is the article from The Atlantic from supposed journalist Jeffrey Goldberg. Yeah, Jeffrey, as a fellow journalist, 2 decades of experience in this field, I call you a supposed alleged journalist, because this story is so unprofessional and unethical. It's disgusting. Let's go through it. Trump. Americans who died in war are, quote, losers and suckers. The president has repeatedly disparaged the intelligence of service members and asked that wounded veterans be kept out of military parades. Multiple sources told The Atlantic. Yeah, multiple unnamed sources. Okay, let's just look at the lead, okay? Now, I've been a journalist for 2 decades, like I said. The worst thing in the world you could do, pretty much the worst thing you can do as a journalist, well, there's a lot of bad things you can do, but one of the most horrible things you can do as a journalist, when you do your story and you have your lead and everything, is you can get it wrong. The lead sets up the tone, premise, and point of your story. And Jeffrey Goldberg, as you will see, gets it wrong. And we can prove it. So let's go with the lead. When President Donald Trump canceled a visit to Seine-Marne American Cemetery near Paris in 2018, he blamed rain for the last-minute decision, saying that the helicopter couldn't fly and that Secret Service wouldn't drive him there. Neither claim was true. Trump rejected the idea of the visit because he feared his hair would become disheveled in the rain and because he did not believe it important to honor American war dead, according to 4 people with first-hand knowledge of the discussion that day. In a conversation with the senior staff members on the morning of the scheduled visit, Trump said, "Why should I go to the cemetery? It's filled with losers." In a separate conversation on the same trip, Trump referred to more than 1,800 Marines who lost their lives at Belleau Wood as suckers for getting killed. Now, look, I don't care what you think of President Trump. I really don't. Love him, hate him, it doesn't matter. Even if you totally despise him and you think he's Hitler, the Antichrist, or the devil incarnate, come to ravage our souls, you can't believe the story. You just can't. Everything the president has done over the last 3.5 years and before during his campaign is totally the antithesis, the exact opposite of what the story promotes. You're talking about a president who during the July 4th holiday wanted to have a military parade down Pennsylvania Avenue. Yeah, he despises the military so much. He despises the military so much, he's actually trying to save soldiers' lives. He just recently announced he's going to be pulling a couple thousand soldiers back from Afghanistan or Iraq because he hates the military so much. But that is just the beginning of this joke. You hear me, Jeffrey? Jeffrey Goldberg, I'm calling you out. You are a disgrace to journalism. You are a joke. At best, your reporting is lazy. And I mean that in the worst term of lazy. At worst, you're a propagandist. Either way, you have no credibility. Since the story came out on September 3rd, now the total's up to 25. 25 people. Some of them are not big Trump fans. I'm telling you, some of them are not folks who are loving the president, John Bolton being one of them, have come out willing to go on the record with their name saying, this is crazy. It never happened. Trump never said any such thing. 25 compared to what we have, 4 people with first-hand knowledge of the discussions. What were they? The maids in hotel in the concierge in the hotel? Of the 25 people, you're talking about the senior staff. John Bolton just wrote a book critical of Trump. The last thing he's doing is making nice, and he says this never happened. This story is absurd. It's crazy. But don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. I have to look well, there's this guy over in BuzzFeed. And his first name is Jason. Last name may be Leopold or something like that. Why am I showing this to you? His picture. Well, at some point in time, and my guess is, here's actually, we can actually look at the, we can blow this up here a little bit, and we can look at the date. April. Let's see if we can blow this up. I don't know if we can blow this up anymore so you can see it. But it looks like to be either April of this year or April of last year. This journalist for BuzzFeed, senior investigative journalist for BuzzFeed, and an investigative journalist basically gets in the weeds of stories. And this guy for BuzzFeed does that all the time. He's always mining data from Freedom of Information requests. Well, he put out a Freedom of Information request regarding Trump's cancellation of the visit to the cemetery. And he got a response from the Navy. And basically what all this says, I understand you can't read it, but if you look it up online, it's there. And there are also emails. Okay, this is documented evidence from that time. Documented evidence that says we advised the president that he could not fly because of the weather, because of the rain and fog, and because a motorcade would take like 2 hours and change to get to the cemetery, and they were advising that he canceled the trip because the Secret Service could not guarantee the president's safety and having to get him out in case of an emergency. And the people on the ground with the president confirm this. And they also go on to say that the president was not pleased about having to confirm the trip. Okay. This was November 9th, 2018, 11:23:21 a.m. This is from the Navy. Attached is a planning weather forecast for Paris, which is where Trump was staying before going to these cemeteries. In the morning, expect visibility as low as 1 mile with a 500-foot ceiling, and bands of moderate rain for Paris and Bellwood from 449. By late morning, ceilings will begin to lift around 1,500 feet, and precip will begin to taper off, becoming intermittent light rain by probably like noon or whatever. However, the potential for periods of moderate rain dropping ceilings below 1,000 feet will remain until midday. Visibility and rain showers should range between 3 to 55 miles, dropping as low as 25 miles in the area of moderate rainfall. This is what the Navy said. Okay? So right away, Jeffrey Goldberg, who, by the way, wrote stories that helped get us into the Iraq War by tying Saddam Hussein to Osama bin Laden, later that we would find out would not be accurate. He wrote those stories. Oopsies. And now he's back. And isn't it something that he's back with a story about this happening right about a couple months from Election Day? Right in the peak of silly season. Isn't that something? What a coincidence, right? So, if any of you actually believes that President Trump would call fallen military veterans suckers and losers, and you're willing to believe 4 sources with first-hand knowledge of the conversation compared to 25 officials with Trump on the ground, actually there, willing to go on the record with their names, saying this is BS, and several of them are no longer Trump fans or folks that are necessarily like the president. If you believe this, you are an idiot. It is horrible. It's not even journalism. I would never, as an editor, if that story came in front of me, I'd have 2 things to say. 1, why can't we name these sources? Generally, you only use anonymous sources if there is a danger to the person's life, health, or employment. And they have to be really solid reasons. We've gotten away from this. You're seeing, it doesn't matter. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, all the ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, NPR, the New York Times, the Washington Post. It doesn't matter. These people are no longer journalists. At least not from the school I came from. And not from 20 years in the industry. I've used an unnamed source maybe in the case of a battered woman where the abuser was still around. I've used maybe an unnamed source for a story that could have serious retribution, but only if and only if I could find out the information another way and attribute it correctly. Anonymous sources are great to point you down a street. They point you to a set of facts that you need to uncover, and they can tell you what those facts are. But for some reasons, they cannot be identified as being the sources of the information. So what you have to do then is you have to use your brain. So you have to do some work as a reporter. You just don't take what somebody says to you and just, oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah, you're good. You look cool. Yeah, it's okay. No, you do something called a fact check, a verification. You independently. And Jeffrey Goldberg, if you're listening to me, if you ever want to consider yourself a credible journalist, I suggest you listen to this very piece of journalism 101 advice. Before you write anything in your story, independently verify and confirm it through other means. Independently verify and confirm through other means. 5 minutes on the internet, and if he'd gone with his buddy from BuzzFeed and bothered to check, he would know his whole lead was BS. It was not only wrong, it was an out-and-out lie. He says the claims Trump made about the weather weren't true. It had nothing to do with Trump worried about his hair. The Navy and the Secret Service said, sir, the weather's too bad. We can't fly you, and we don't have time to drive you around because we might not be able to get you out in an emergency. So we'd rather you didn't do it. The Secret Service and the Navy. All right. So I don't know where Jeffrey Goldberg is getting his stuff from, but it's BS. And he didn't even bother to do the most basic of journalism tenets, basic of journalism rules, before he published this horrible nonsense, to even take some steps to see if it was true. Because the first thing is, if my sources told me, well, Trump was worried about his hair, so that's why he didn't want to go, forget the whole losers and suckers thing. But that would have been the key fact to check, don't you think? That would have been the fact that you could independently verify and confirm on your own, just as this Jason from BuzzFeed did, by contacting the Navy and the Secret Service. Were there concerns that day about the weather? Yes or no? You don't have to tell me. I don't want to get into, obviously the Secret Service isn't going to get into, didn't want to take this route, that route, or what. I don't need to know that. I just need to know, were you guys concerned about the weather and advised the president not to go? Yes or no question. And they probably would say, well, in the case of the Navy, because of freedom of information, they released the memos and the emails. Sir, the weather's not good. We can't send you. We can't fly you. And the Secret Service don't want to drive you. Those are the facts. Documented facts. Documented. 2 minutes you would have found that, Jeffrey. And once you know that the basic premise of your story about him not wanting to go because he didn't want to be bothered because of the rain and his hair, his perfect hair. As soon as you knew that was not true, then you have to question everything else in the story. All right? If your four sources gave you that information and you find through documentation it is a lie, it is wrong, it is not true, it's inaccurate, then how can you sit there and stand by the rest of your story? It's BS. And if they're lying about the most basic fact that can be proven evidentially not to be true, do you really think that he called deceased military veterans losers and suckers? Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that? Yeah. But, obviously, if you're on the left, you hate Trump, you got TDS, you got Trump derangement syndrome. Of course, he said that, he's just been pulling the wool over our eyes the whole time. 3.5 years, his actions and deeds and words supporting veterans, they don't mean anything because he said these things on this trip 2 years ago. Oh, by the way, these sources were so outraged, it took them 2 years to bring it to anybody. And just around election time? As a journalist, I would be concerned. You know, the one thing you learn in this profession pretty quickly is you need to ask, why is someone giving you information? Everybody's got an agenda, okay? Everybody does. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. No one is in this world perfectly altruistic. We all have our basic needs for food and employment and relationships and survival, sex, and everything else. We all have the same set of human needs and wants. And every human being, whether it's President Trump, you or me, we all try to live our lives to fill our given agendas. We all have goals. We all have things we want to see happen. Right? Honestly? If you say, no, well, no, Charlie, no. No, I live life purely altruistically. I am not looking for anything. I don't care if I get fed. I don't care if I have a roof over my head. I don't care if I'm warm or cold. I don't care if I have a relationship with a significant other or not. I don't need human compassion, any kind of human interaction. I am perfectly neutral. Like even Mr. Spock in Star Trek was not completely neutral, was he? Not even Data. The android was. Okay? No one is totally immune to their own agendas, wants, needs, goals. So the first thing you have to do when someone brings you information as a journalist is you have to ask yourself, why are they telling me this? Is person A telling me something to get person B in trouble? Or business B in trouble? Or political organization B in trouble? And is the fact of whatever the information is they're bringing to me, I mean, is it just kind of a gotcha, ha ha, na na ha ha, 2-year-old schoolyard thing to do? Or is it something that really has meaning for the people who are my readers or my audience? I mean, there's something, frankly, let's go back to Bill Clinton for a minute. I mean, from a journalist perspective, do I really care that he had something going on with an intern in the Oval Office? Do I really care? No. That's between him, his God, and his wife. And the intern, obviously. I mean, Monica Lewinsky wasn't 14. She was of age to consent, and from her own admission and stories of those around, she was, a willing participant in this whole relationship with Clinton. But where Bill Clinton went wrong, the so what for us, is when he went on camera and he wagged his finger at the American people like, well, how dare you question me? I did not have sex with that woman. I did not with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never lied, not one single. Yeah. Why didn't you just come clean, Billy boy? Come to Jesus and say, yeah, hey, Hillary's an old hag, which she was even back then. I mean, come on, with that voice. Can you imagine waking up to that every day? Bill, ah! That would make me want to shoot myself. And no, that's not being sexist. It's just her voice grates on me. There are men's voices who grate on me, too. My voice may be grating on you right now. Who knows? But certainly, half the country can't stand Hillary. What makes you think Bill does after how many years? And he sought comfort in the arms of a younger, more attractive woman. Oh boy. That happens like all the time, okay? It happens all the time. All over the country. and folks saying, well, it shouldn't. No, if you take marriage vows or vows of any kind in any serious relationship seriously, you shouldn't do that. But it has been happening for millennia. It happened in scripture in the Bible. It happens in the Quran. It happens in, ancient Chinese writings, Hindu writings. Unfaithfulness and adultery, it's rife. Okay? It happens in history. I mean, come on. But the issue is, when the President of the United States openly lies to the public about it, and then expects to walk away and be cool. If he had just simply said, "Yeah, I did. I had an affair with this woman, Monica Lewinsky," who would have cared? What could they have done? Well, Hillary's probably mad. Yeah. Okay, fine. Maybe she didn't care either. But it had nothing to do with him being president. Nothing to do with policy. But were they right to impeach him? Yes, and he should have been convicted. He committed perjury to a federal judge in the Paula Jones deposition, saying he had nothing to do with her. And it wasn't until physical evidence on that blue dress came out that he changed his tune. They had him. He lied. He committed perjury under oath. That's the difference. At the time, 300 and some odd people were serving sentences in federal jails for perjury. And Bill Clinton got a pass. And what was Nancy Pelosi, who, by the way, was in Congress then? Oh, no one is above the law. Yeah, when it was your guy, it was fine. Jerry Nadler was saying, oh, this is ridiculous. We shouldn't even be impeaching for this. And then he's leading the charge to impeach Trump. What a hypocritic jerk Jerry Nadler is. Democrat out of New York. Congressman. What a hypocritic jerk. Him, Adam Schiff, Speaker Pelosi. Oh, and Speaker Pelosi, who decides to go and get her hair done. Has her staff make an appointment. Shows up inside one-on-one, doesn't bother to wear a mask, walking from getting her hair washed to the chair or whatever. A video of that surfaces, and what does she do? Blames and threatens to sue the salon owner. She was set up. What a bunch of BS. Rules for me, but not for thee. It's a Democrat story, isn't it? And we're going to get into a little bit more of that because there's more of that coming up in this episode. This episode is only going to be about an hour because I'm by myself today. Nicole's on a hiatus, like I said. She's going to be gone for a couple shows while she's taking so much needed vacation time. But this is what hypocrisy looks like. And we got more. I mean, the thing is that things are going so crazy now that you don't know what to believe. And there's so much information out there, and much of it is so opposite of each other. We're gonna, before we go to our break for our sponsorship break, I'll bring up just one other little story. There was I believe it was a USA Today report that they had the motorcycle rally in Sturgis, and there were it was like a 10-day event. 450,000 people were estimated to have taken part in that event. Now, an initial report came out from USA Today that only one COVID-19 death was linked to the rally and 350 cases of COVID because of the rally. All right. So that story's out. And it's out for a couple days. All of a sudden comes this other story that there was a study by, I believe, the University of San Diego Health and Human Services or whatever. And no, we were wrong. 260,000 new cases of COVID came as a result of the thing in Sturgis, and who knows how many deaths. And the estimated economic impact of the Sturgis rally and the COVID spread was is going to be $12 billion, according to the study. Now, wait a minute. Wait a tick. I mean, to me as a journalist, first of all, red flags are going off all over the place. You can't have one report citing sources saying that there are 350 cases and another one within a week saying, oh, no, it's actually more like 260,000 cases. One of them has got to be off the charts wrong, don't you think? Now, by the way, this is the same organization that published the study that said there were 260,000 cases of COVID spread at the Sturgis rally. This is the same exact organization that found no statistical significant spread of COVID-19 due to the protests and riots that have been taking place over the last 100 or so days. So apparently COVID is really, really smart. It knows to attack bikers partying at a rally, but not protesters in the streets. Oh, well, there was 460,000 people there, and they were there for 10 days. They were all bottled. Yeah, well, how many nights have there been rioting in Portland? We're on like day 102. A third of the year. A third of the year they've been protesting in Portland. By the hundreds. If not by the thousands, by the hundreds. And over 10 times as long a period are they close together in the streets and stuff. But that has no statistical spreading, none whatsoever. But this thing in Sturgis, 250,000 cases. I'm more inclined to believe it's the 350 cases. What do you think? What does common sense tell you? The riots in New York, the looting, people running around the streets packed with thousands of people for days and days and days. Oh, that didn't spread COVID at all. But this rally in Sturgis did. Has nothing to do with the fact that both things are on different sides of political ideology. So we're going to take our break and pay some bills. If you're watching on YouTube, stay tuned. We'll be back in a couple minutes. We'll give you some music while we get set up here. And then we'll be back. And welcome back to the What's Cooking podcast here on the Grill. Journalist Charles W. Kim here. My co-host Nicole Wells is off for a bit, taking some much needed vacation. She'll be back in a few weeks. Oh, also want to tell you that we are going to be streaming and live on election night. So stay tuned, how to tune in for that. We're going to be on for a while. We're going to put that into a podcast or segments into various podcasts. I don't know right now. But we will be on election night with the results, and at least what we know that night with mail-in voting. Who knows how long this is going to take? But we will be on election night, and hopefully it'll be an interesting time to say the least. We'll try to have some fun with it, and whatever happens. We'll see. So the next big thing we have to discuss is this guy on the screen. Democratic governor of the state of New York, Andrew M. Cuomo. Okay, so I'm going to play this for you, and then we're going to dissect it. This was yesterday, which was Tuesday, September 8th. And this was yesterday, and we'll just let him say what he's got to say. And then we're going to talk about it a little bit. So enjoy.
Doing absolutely nothing. They're going back and forth with gridlock. This was the last piece of legislation that they were supposed to pass to handle the aftermath of COVID, and they haven't done it. The Republican Senate doesn't want to fund state and local governments, and that's the sticking point. Not to fund state and local governments, but to provide all the money that they did to businesses. But you're not going to provide funding to state and local governments who basically support police, fire, hospitals, and schools. It's just totally ludicrous to me. And it starts with the president.
All right. See, I don't know where. I mean, his father, Mario Cuomo, was governor, of course. His brother, Chris Cuomo, is a big talking head on CNN. He's not a journalist. He's a talking head who has got about less brains. He was so insulted when someone called him Fredo, the middle brother from The Godfather, who Michael eventually has to have killed because he turns out to be a traitor to the family and almost has Michael killed because he's resentful about being the older brother who's never really taken seriously. Well, Chris Cuomo's, the younger brother of Andrew, but also there is no reason to take Chris Cuomo seriously. He's a jerk. He's got an overinflated sense of himself, and he couldn't be a reporter if he tried. Anyway, I've seen dogs that are better reporters than Chris Cuomo. It was his brother, Andrew, governor of New York. Okay. So he says, first of all, that Washington hasn't done anything, and he's upset over the current conflict in Washington on funding, further funding for the stimulus package for COVID, because the thing is, the Democratic cities like New York, New Jersey, and these big cities, San Francisco, California, they want the next round of COVID funding to basically take care of all their past sins. In the case of Phil Murphy here in New Jersey, he wants like 20 to 30 billion. Well, that just happens to be like the budget gap, the shortfall that New Jersey has for years and years of mismanagement. And he wants this COVID excuse to refund everything. Now, in New York, it's the same thing with Cuomo. Cuomo wants the next round of COVID funding to solve all the ills that he and Mayor de Blasio of the city have wrought on themselves. Well, what have they wrought? Since COVID and the riots and the looting, which, and shutting down the city, Cuomo, by the way, we'll get to this. Oh, geez. We will get to this. Oh, dear. He still is not allowing indoor dining in New York City. He is not allowing indoor dining in New York City. And he wonders why people are upset. He wonders why people are mad. How much money in small businesses, especially in New York, how many little mom and pop restaurants are there throughout the city that are dying, that are going to die. Dead. Forget it. They're not coming back. And why does he say? Well, we don't have enough health officials or police to go out and ensure compliance. We're already having a problem with compliance in bars, and people are going to kill grandma because they're not wearing masks and they're inside and they're over 25% capacity and yada, 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 yada. But this is the same governor and Mayor de Blasio who had no problem, once again, with protesters filling the streets night after night after night, burning and looting and smashing and being violent, and that was all good to go. As a matter of fact, and now Cuomo's throwing this back into Trump and trying to make it, it's every politician does this, and it really annoys me. When they want something and they know they're wrong for wanting it. It's for the children. It's for the single mothers. It's for the old. It's for the best. No, it's not. No, it's not. Oh, well, President Trump they haven't done anything in Washington to fund, and he's going to say, considering the schools and the police and the police, Mayor de Blasio just cut $1 billion out of the police budget to appease the defund the police people. It's not Trump keeping money out of the hands of police, causing the problems, the rise in crime, more than 400 applications by police officers to turn around and retire early in record numbers. It's you people managing your own house who can't do it. It's not the President of the United States position to pay your state and local bills for you. You have your own tax base. Oh, but your stupid policies, especially since COVID and the riots happened, are what you're upset about is that the wealthiest people in New York are leaving the state and especially the city. The people who pay the largest percentage of tax are leaving in droves. Matter of fact, Governor Cuomo was saying to the richer folks, "Oh, let me buy you a drink. If I'll buy you a drink, I'll buy you dinner if you stay in New York." That's how bad, desperate the city it is. Him and Mayor de Blasio have made New York so bad. He's talking about Trump needing an army to walk down the streets of New York. He and de Blasio have made the streets so bad. I mean, the streets were bad in the 70s. Drugs and crime and things. And he's actually going to bring up Trump to City Drop Dead. That was basically a take on what President Gerald R. Ford said to New York City Mayor Ed Koch when the city was hovering around bankruptcy and wanted federal help. Ford told Koch to drop dead and the city had to declare bankruptcy. In the 70s. Mayor Ed Koch, look it up. So Trump's basically saying the same thing. But according to Cuomo, this is much, much worse. And then he has the coup de grace, the Democratic coup de grace. We're going to get to that, and you might as well hear it right from him. Try to keep an open mind and a little common sense here. Like I said, I don't care if you like Trump or hate Trump. Have a little common sense, will you please? Listen to what he says and try to see if it makes sense to you. You people out there, when you get your tax bills, see if what this gentleman is saying rings true in your lives.
There was a headline in the Daily News once, Ford to City Drop Dead, and the city was outraged. Ford wouldn't provide financial resources. 'Cause, 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 What Ford did pales in comparison to what Trump is doing. Not only did he tell New York City to drop dead, Trump is actively trying to kill New York City. It is personal. I think it's psychological. He is trying to kill New York City. He passed SALT, which was targeted just at New York City. Tax reform cost us $14 billion. He's refused to fund the extension of the 2nd Avenue subway from 96 to 125th Street. Every prior administration has funded the 2nd Avenue subway. It has always been a federal-state partnership. Only this president, a former New Yorker, refuses to fund the 2nd Avenue subway. Even after we opened it up to 96th Street and did an amazing turnaround on the construction project that everybody celebrated. He won't approve the air train to LaGuardia. And you want to talk about really ironic, repugnant logic. You know why he won't approve the air train to LaGuardia? He says he has to do an environmental review statement. The same president who has lamented about the delay of environmental reviews and how they take so long and they stop development and how bad the secret process is and how the environmentalists are all full of baloney when it comes to Anwar. But now he says, I can't approve the air train from LaGuardia that's been talked about for decades because I have to do an environmental review. Now, Trump, as the environmental bureaucrat, how incredible is that? He won't approve congestion pricing for the MTA. What does he have to do with congestion pricing? Nothing. It is just gratuitous. It's just gratuitous. There's no federal involvement in congestion pricing. Their approval is purely technical. And it's been over a year. We passed it in New York State. He won't approve it. He won't rebuild the tunnels between New York and New Jersey that are dangerous. They are Amtrak tunnels. Do you know who owns Amtrak? Who owns Amtrak? The federal government owns Amtrak. They're his tunnels. They're decaying. I went to the tunnel. I took a video of water seeping into the tunnel. I took a video of bricks crumbling. I sent him the video. He watched the video. Still no money to fund the Amtrak tunnels. This weekend, they stopped FEMA funding from cleaning schools and trains. We want students to go back. We want schools to reopen. But you don't want to clean the schools? Students should go back to a dirty school? Is that what you want your child to do? Gratuitous and arbitrary. And now, no federal funds for New York City and New York State post-COVID. Donald Trump caused the COVID outbreak in New York. Donald Trump caused the COVID outbreak in New York. That is a fact.
That, Governor Cuomo, is bullshit. Partisan, Democrat, dishonest bullshit. A big, stinking pile. And I'm calling you out, Governor. You're a liar, you're a thief, and you are a murderer, Governor Cuomo, sir. And I hope the DOJ is investigating. We could talk about this a little bit too. The thousands of older New Yorkers, grandmas and grandpas that you sent to their deaths with your executive order. You, sir, are no better than the worst dictator authoritarian lining up people to send them to their doom. You call Trump Hitler? You, sir, are responsible for 6,000 or more of our most vulnerable senior citizens in nursing homes and long-term care facilities dying because of you, sir. You are a murderer, sir. You signed an executive order sending these senior citizens from the hospital, forcing nursing homes to take them back when the nursing homes did not have the protocols in place to care for COVID patients, and the spread and the death is on, that blood is on your hands, Governor Andrew M. Cuomo of New York, you piece of scum. And you have the gall, you have the cojones to use during your press conference and say that the cause of your COVID woes in New York, the worst hot spot in the nation, you probably account for 1/3 of all the deaths, of the 180,000 deaths in the United States. You're probably responsible for a good third of that, just in New York. But it's Trump's fault. It's Trump's fault. Oh, it's Trump's fault because, and this is, I'm not even going to play it because you're an idiot. You're a moron. How you got to be a governor, I don't know. You know nothing of history. You know nothing of civics. You know nothing about the way the Constitution works, the separation of powers between states and the federal government, the 10th Amendment. You know nothing of this. Trump should clean the schools? Trump should clean the schools. Who is in charge of the schools in New York? And sir, I used to live in New York State and Afton and Nineveh in the southern tier around Binghamton. I know about the regent system in New York where the state controls the curriculum, the state controls everything. The state and the local taxpayers foot the bill for education in the state of New York. Yeah, do they get some federal money? Yeah, but it's not the be-all and end-all. At the end of the day, who is responsible to clean your school? When you have a janitor in a high school, do you have him send a bill to the federal government for his time? Or do you pay him? How stupid do you think the people are, Governor Cuomo, you moron? You, sir, are responsible as governor of the state of New York to ensure that your schools and your subways are clean. That's not the job of the federal government. And you know what? Well, you just took de Blasio, your buddy, mayor of New York, just took $1 billion out of the police budget. $1 billion with a B. You can't use that money to clean up your subways? Really? You need FEMA to come in? And oh, by the way, let's talk for a minute. All right. Why does President Trump maybe why he's withholding or stopping funding for the schools and the cleaning the schools and the subways? Maybe because he needs that FEMA money to continue to pay unemployment benefits for the 25 million Americans who are still unemployed thanks to the lockdown. That the Democrats will not extend because they have a bee in their bonnet and they want more money for states like yours that can't run themselves decently. Maybe that's what he's going to use that money for. I'd rather see it go to unemployed people and have you pay for your own people to wipe down stuff. That's where the money should be coming from, not the federal government, sir. Do you even listen to yourself? Do you even listen to yourself? Or are you just cool with saying junk out of your mouth because it's political? I understand your dad was some great politician. I remember when he was governor, it wasn't such a great time in New York. He wasn't that great. A lot of us in New York thought he sucked too. But how dare you? How dare? Wait. Let's go back a little. Let's go back a little in history here. Let's take a look at some stuff, okay? Let's take a look at a couple things here. All right. All right. Let's take a look at something. Number one, as far as killing Manhattan, Manhattan's office buildings are empty. A ton of people are not going back to their office skyscrapers, according to the New York Times. Story published yesterday, updated today. Leasing problems in the city of skyscrapers. What percentage of skyscrapers right now are empty in New York? And a lot of those companies may not be coming back because they're probably going to figure out, rather than paying the high New York real estate prices, it's a lot easier to have your people work from home as long as the productivity is there. If they can do the same thing at home that they can do in their cubicle, there's no reason, right? Here's a story, too. As we were talking about the murder of the senior citizens in New York and New Jersey, with Governor Cuomo and his comrade in arms across the Hudson, Democratic Governor Phil Murphy in New Jersey. You want to talk about the Stalin and Hitler of our time? There you go, buddies to the end. Yeah, Hitler eventually turned on Stalin. Maybe Murphy will eventually turn on Cuomo, or vice versa. But between the pair of them, and they're saying they may not ever really know how many seniors truly died in those states. But it is in the double digits added together. It's like 11,000, 12,000 right now that we can account for of seniors that died under the Murphy-Cuomo buddy compact of COVID. It was President Donald Trump who sent a military hospital ship into New York Harbor. It was President Donald Trump and FEMA that built temporary hospitals all over New Jersey and New York during the worst of the outbreak. He provided aid. He provided ventilators. He provided PPE. He had our factories gear up, produce by the ton, and then give it to these states that needed it. He gave New York so much, they didn't even need it, so they gave some to Connecticut. Yeah, that's how bad President Trump is. And that's how great you are, Governor Cuomo. You and Murphy are strangling the New York metropolitan area for your own political benefit. You're hoping things get bad enough where nobody will vote for Trump because things are so bad. You guys are the ones causing it. Like I said, indoor dining is just starting again in New Jersey. In New York, it's still a no-go because Cuomo doesn't feel that they could have enough compliance. But he was totally good with people running the streets, looting and rioting and protesting by the thousands in the streets of New York City, damaging some of these very restaurants that couldn't open anyway, to be honest. Wow. You are such a joke, Governor Cuomo. I don't see how the folks on your side of the political aisle think that you are some kind of messiah that may come in to save them from the disaster that Vice President Biden is, as far as running for president. That maybe they could throw you in at the last second or something, or that you have political aspirations. You're an idiot. You're corrupt. You're criminal. And I really hope that the reports of the Department of Justice looking into you and Murphy in Pennsylvania and the senior citizen deaths, I hope that amounts to some indictments. Your executive order is written down. The documentation is clear. The evidence is foolproof. The evidence is overwhelming. You and Murphy sent thousands of grandmas and grandpas to their deaths from COVID. And you're going to blame Donald Trump. Wow. Well, let's go. Oh, well, Trump didn't do enough. He didn't until mid-March, he didn't ban travel from Europe. And of course, it wasn't the China virus. It was Chinese people with the virus going to Europe, giving it to the Europeans, and then the Europeans went to New York City. Not the Chinese, the Europeans went to New York City because, of course, President Trump banned travel from China, but we don't talk about that. But the Europeans came into New York City, and they're the ones who really spread the virus around and caused our problems. And President Trump, you should have banned travel from Europe earlier. Except when you did ban travel from Europe, we were all calling you a xenophobe and crazy, and you were a nutcase for doing it when you did it. Here's a story from March 11th. Mayor says healthy people should still be dining out. Mayor de Blasio in Trump at the end of January is when he initiated his travel ban on China. And it was right around this time when de Blasio is telling people in March, don't worry about it. Go on out. Have yourselves a good time. Go out to eat. Go out to the theater. Go out and have a good time. This is when President Trump is cutting off, cutting off travel from Europe because of the situations in the European countries. And this Democratic mayor of New York City is saying, and Cuomo's right behind him, yeah, come on out, it's good. Yeah, come on, it's all good. Enjoy. And of course, the end of February.
The coronavirus also impacting business in San Francisco's Chinatown. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who represents San Francisco, toured the area this morning. She says there's no reason tourists or locals should be staying away. NBC Bay Area's Mark Matthews has been with the House Speaker all day. He joins us live in San Francisco's Chinatown. And Mark, businesses, are they really hurting there?
Well, to hear some business owners tell it, Janelle, this coronavirus scare has had an enormous impact. Speaker Nancy Pelosi told me she came here to Chinatown to combat fear.
That's what we're trying to do today, is to say everything is fine here. Come, because the precautions have been taken. The city is on top of the situation.
Yeah, the city's on top of the situation. Take a look. Where's the social distancing? Where are the masks? They're on top of the situation. Walking arm in arm, inches apart, no masks. Everything's good here. Everything's good. They're taking precautions. Yeah, what precautions are you taking?
The speaker was greeted by shop owners with open arms.
I love it. I love it, Nancy. I love it. I'm so glad.
Oh, look at that social distancing right there with the Speaker of the House.
A walk shop, a temple, and a Chinatown icon, the Golden Gate Fortune Cookie Factory. Started 58 years ago by owner Kevin Chan's mother and uncle. Chan told me his business has been decimated.
I went down 70%.
Chan believes the fear of the virus is racially motivated.
I think it is. Because even when I walk out, I cough a little bit, my throat is itchy. They look at me, oh, like this. Scary.
As Pelosi walked from the cookie factory to lunch at a dim sum restaurant, She hugged friends, waved to onlookers, and downplayed the racism issue, saying she understands people are concerned about China.
But that shouldn't be carried over to Chinatown and San Francisco. I hope that it's not that, but all I can say is I'm here. We feel safe and sound, so many of us coming here.
Nancy Pelosi went on to say that she is concerned that the president's budget proposal cuts 19% from the Centers for Disease Control. The president in India today said that the coronavirus is under control in the United States. Reporting from Chinatown, Mark Matthews, NBC.
There you have it. There you have it. It's the Democrats. We're pushing people to go out, have fun, enjoy your life. This is nothing serious. And then so President Trump is like, yeah, okay. So yeah. Anyway, I think that's where we're going to leave it. I've certainly took off today on Governor Cuomo of New York. Governor Murphy of New Jersey, you're not that much better. You're an idiot, too. You're an idiot, too. You both are killing two very beautiful and wonderful states. And I would think that New York City may never come back from all this. I think maybe in New York City, I mean, hopefully I'm wrong, but I think the damage is done. Once you have the spiral out of control, the people leaving who pay the majority of taxes, services go down, things start to deteriorate. Oh, yeah, by the way, Cuomo, I think, unless I'm wrong, and could be, but you can prove it to me because you have all your facts, right? The bridges and tunnels going in and out of New York, especially on the Jersey side, are run by and owned by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, a bilateral organization of the two states. Amtrak owns the tracks. They don't own the tunnels. You can fact check me on that, but I believe I'm right. Those tunnels and bridges are part of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, as we learned from 9/11. So once again, Governor Cuomo, you're spreading lies and disinformation to serve your own political ends. And that's disgusting. That's disgusting. And I hope the country proves you and you get your comeuppance on November 3rd. With a nice red wave right through your blue state. So we'll leave it there. This, if you like it, if you like the show, please subscribe, hit the like button, notification bell. Check us out on anchor.com for our podcast, What's Cooking. And we will see you next week. And for those of you on YouTube, we will also say goodbye, and we'll see you next time when we're streaming live.